The alien girl who asked the wrong question. Jason was tired after a long day of repairing old ships in Dock 17. His hands were covered in grease and his uniform smelled like burnt metal, but he didn't mind because he loved working with machines. They were simple, honest, and didn't ask questions, unlike people. He walked back to his workshop ready to eat something and sleep when he saw a strange crate sitting near his door. The crate was tall and black with glowing red lines and no delivery label on it. The crate had a warning message blinking. On a small screen in front, it said "Do not open, experimental" in bold letters. But curiosity pushed Jason forward. He looked left and right. The dock was empty, no cameras, no guards. He touched the lock and it clicked open like it had been waiting for him. The crate opened slowly with a soft hiss. Cold mist came out and inside he saw something that made his heart freeze. It was a girl, not human. Her skin was pale violet. Her long white hair was tied in a messy braid and she had strange glowing marks along her face. Her ears were pointed like blades and she had a tail curled tightly around her body. She wore thin gray fabric, more like a medical wrap than clothes. Her wrists and ankles were chained and her eyes were closed. Jason stepped back, his mind racing, but then the girl moved. Her eyes opened. They were golden and glowing and filled with confusion. She looked at him and whispered in broken English, "Am I dead?" "No," Jason said without thinking. "You're safe now." She blinked slowly like trying to understand. Safe. Then her body gave out and she collapsed into his arms. He caught her quickly, feeling how light and cold she was. Her body was shaking like she hadn't eaten in days or maybe weeks. Jason carried her into a ship, his heart pounding with every step. What had he just brought inside his life? What if this was illegal? What if someone came looking for her? But still he couldn't leave her there, not when she looked at him like that, like he was the first person in the universe who had not heard her. He wrapped her in blankets, gave her water, and waited. She didn't speak much, but she stared at everything like a child learning the world again. She didn't sleep either, just watched him with those glowing eyes as he fixed wires and checked engines. The next day, alarms started ringing across the station. An announcement echoed saying, "Dangerous cargo loss, possible bio threat." Teams were scanning every dock. Jason kept the girl hidden in a supply closet behind his ship's core. She didn't protest, she didn't cry, she only asked one thing: "Will they break me again?" He didn't answer because he didn't know the truth. Over the next few days she followed him everywhere, silent, watching, curious. She learned fast, repeating his words and copying his movements. Once she touched a hot wire and didn't scream, just looked at her burned fingers and said, "Interesting." Jason gave her gloves and she smiled for the first time, like it meant something deep. She didn't know her name or where she came from. All she remembered was a cold room, white walls, and machines that poked her. She said they were testing something inside her, something that made her different. Jason guessed she was a hybrid or a failed weapon, maybe even royalty from some lost alien empire, but none of that mattered now. One night, while Jason was fixing a coolant pipe, she sat beside him and watched quietly. He was focused on the tools, didn't notice when she moved closer. Her hand reached out and brushed his side, then lower. Her fingers pressed against a very private place, and Jason jumped back. She tilted her head and Asked softly, "Human, why does your breathing tool grow when I touch it?" Jason stared at her, his face red, his words gone. She didn't smile or laugh, she looked serious, deeply curious, like she really didn't know what she had done. "It's not something you touch," he said quickly. And she nodded slowly, still not fully understanding. "Do I break it if I touch too long?" she asked. Jason stood up, heart racing, not from anger but from fear, not of her but of the fact that she was completely innocent and the world would destroy her for it. "She's not a threat," he told himself. "She's just learning, and I have to protect her, even if it means going against every rule." But outside the ship, eyes were watching and time was running out. She doesn't know what shame is. Jason couldn't sleep that night. He sat near the door of his small workshop, staring at the hallway as if something might break in and take her away. The alien girl was resting on his cot, arms around her legs, eyes wide open, not blinking, just thinking. Her glowing eyes followed every shadow and sound, like she was still in the lab, still expecting pain at any moment. He made a hot drink and gave it to her. She held it carefully, sniffed it, and then took a sip. Her nose wrinkled, but she drank anyway. No words, just silence between them, but it was not heavy. It felt like the kind of quiet that happens before a storm. "You're safe here," he whispered. She nodded slowly and whispered back, "For now." Jason didn't ask about what she did last night, didn't bring up the awkward question she had asked. He knew she didn't understand. He knew she wasn't trying to tease him or be rude. She was learning like a child with a dangerous mind and a soft heart, and that scared him more than anything. The next morning she followed him into the engine bay, her tail swaying behind her. Like a lazy cat, she was barefoot, stepping lightly over cables and broken parts. Her ears twitched at every spark, and she smiled when he explained things in slow, careful words. "This makes the ship fly, this gives it power, this keeps us alive." She repeated each word like a song, then touched the machine softly and whispered, "Alive like me." Jason blinked. He didn't expect that answer, and for the first time he realized she wasn't just curious, she was connecting everything: feelings, machines, even people. Like she was building her own language inside her mind, using every tiny piece around her. While Jason worked, she asked about his body again, not in a dirty way but in the same way she asked about engines or wires. She pointed at his chest and said, "Why do humans have two of these but no milk?" He laughed awkwardly and said, "Not all humans give milk." She thought for a moment and said, "I see. Yours are for decoration." He dropped his wrench and almost choked. But she didn't laugh. She just kept watching him like he was the mystery, not her. Later that day, Jason gave her real clothes, soft fabric, not the lab rags she had. She looked at them, then at him, then started undressing right in front of him. No shame, no hesitation, just peeling the thin wrap off her skin. "Stop, wait, you can't do that here." Jason turned around, his face burning. She paused, confused. "Why, this is not mating." He took a deep breath. "No, but we don't just undress in front of others, not without trust or privacy or permission. It's a social thing." She tilted her head again. "So strange. Your rules are built on fear of seeing." Jason didn't argue. He handed her the clothes and waited until she dressed. When she finished, she came close and said, "Is this better for your comfort?" He nodded, still red in the face but thankful she listened. But the trouble didn't stop there. That night he heard a strange tapping sound outside the ship. He grabbed his old blaster and opened the hatch slowly. The hallway was empty, but he felt it eyes watching. Movement in the corner of his sight. Something had followed them, something smart and patient. He went back in, locked the doors, sealed the vents, and turned to find her sitting on the floor drawing something, with her finger glowing patterns across the metal shapes that didn't belong to any known language. What is that? He asked. She looked up quietly. It's what I remember. It comes when I sleep and shows me the stars and the cages. Jason sat down beside her. Are they looking for you? She nodded slowly and said, they don't want me back. They want what's inside me. What's inside you? He asked gently. She looked at him, her voice soft and shaking. I don't know, but it's changing. I feel it in my skin and in my bones, and I think I'm not what they made me to be. Jason stared at her for a long moment, then put his hand over hers, then let her draw more. As the ship grew quiet again, but far above them in the control tower, a shadow watched the screen. A man with dark eyes and silver gloves leaned closer and smiled coldly as her image flickered in front of him. Found you, he whispered, and he pressed a button that lit up the hunt, the tracker who wanted her back. The station lights flickered once, then twice, then dimmed for 2 full seconds. Jason looked up from his tools, his heart already racing. That was not normal. This was not a power glitch. This was a warning, the kind that told experienced men to run before it was too late. She felt it too. The alien girl was already standing by the airlock, not moving, just listening. Her ears twitching, her eyes glowing brighter than before, like something ancient had awakened inside her. They found us, she said in a low whisper. Jason nodded and pulled out a small pack from the wall, a hidden escape kit. Food, water, fake ID, and one old comm blocker. They had to go now before the trap closed, but they were too late. Thundering knock hit the ship's side. Metal echoed through every wall. It was not a normal knock. It was heavy, robotic, too strong for any human hand. Jason looked through the camera screen. Outside stood a tall figure dressed black armor, a breathing mask on his face, 2 glowing eyes behind the visor, and a strange mark carved into his chest. Armor like a serpent biting its own tail. Open up, cargo theft is a crime. The man's voice came through the comm, cold like ice. I know what's inside your ship, and she belongs to the Dominion. Jason turned off the mic, his heart pounding. He looked at the girl. She was shaking, but not from fear, from something deeper. Her fingers dug into the wall like claws, and her tail was stiff, not scared, more like ready to fight. Jason whispered, we need to hide now, but she shook her head. No more hiding. She walked to the main hatch and touched the controls. Jason tried to stop her, but she pushed his hand away, her voice calm. If I run, they will hunt forever. If I face them, maybe they will see I am not what they made. The door opened slowly, and the armored man stepped inside, tall like a monster, his armor hissing with every step. He raised his scanner and pointed it at her, then looked at Jason. Step away, human, or you will be broken. Jason stood in front of her, arms wide, and shouted, you're not taking her. She's not your property. The man laughed, a dry, sharp sound. She's not even a person. She is an experiment. She doesn't know what she is. She doesn't feel pain like you do. She's not yours to protect. The girl stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. I feel everything and I choose him. The man froze for 1 second, maybe in surprise, maybe in calculation, then raised his weapon, but before he could fire, she moved. She was faster than anything Jason had ever seen. Her hand struck the gun. The blast fired into the wall, then her leg kicked the man back into the hallway. His body smashed against the wall, but he didn't fall. He laughed again and said, "So the beast learned tricks, but you're still unfinished." Jason grabbed his blaster, aimed and fired, but the armored man had shields. The blast bounced off and hit the ceiling. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. The ship locked down. Doors slammed tight. The man pulled out a second weapon, a net gun, and aimed it at her. Jason jumped in front of her again. The net hit him first, sharp hooks biting into his skin, dragging him down. She screamed, and her body glowed blue for a second, then red, then pure white like a star. Her chains from the lab, still wrapped around her arms, snapped like paper. Her eyes turned pure gold. Her skin cracked with light. She lifted the armored man into the air with one hand and slammed him into the ground again and again until his mask broke and blood spilled across the floor. When she stopped, her hands were shaking, her knees weak, but her face calm. Her voice was quiet and full of sadness. "This is what they wanted to create, but I am not theirs anymore." Jason crawled to her, bleeding but smiling. Even in pain, he took her hand and said, "Then let's leave this place and never look back." She nodded and helped him stand. Then they left the ship, dragging the broken hunter behind them through empty halls and dark corners. What they didn't know was that the Dominion had sent more than one tracker, and one of them was already watching from the shadows, recording everything. The hunt was far from over. The bond they didn't understand. Jason's legs were weak and his back was burning from the net wounds, but he didn't stop walking. The girl was holding his arm tightly, guiding him through the lower tunnels of the station, her glowing eyes checking every dark corner, her ears twitching at every sound. She didn't talk much, only whispered, "Turn left or stop or danger." Close, they walked for almost an hour, past old metal walls and forgotten supply rooms where no one came anymore. The power flickered and the air was heavy with dust and oil. Jason kept thinking about the hunter, the way the girl had thrown him, like he weighed nothing, like she wasn't even trying. She had power, raw and dangerous, and maybe not fully under control, but she used it for him, to protect him. No one had ever done that for Jason before, not even another human. They stopped near an old maintenance door. Jason leaned against the wall, breathing hard. The girl placed her hand on his chest and closed her eyes. Her fingers started glowing and warm light moved through his body slowly. The pain in his ribs faded. The cuts closed and the burning from the net disappeared. "What was that?" he whispered. She looked up, her voice soft. "My body is learning your biology. I can copy some of your healing, but it takes energy." Jason stared at her, confused and amazed at the same time, then asked, "What exactly are you?" She lowered her head like she didn't want to answer for a moment. It felt like she would stay silent forever, but then she said, "I was made to breed and adapt to any life form. They wanted me to carry children that would survive in any world, mix of DNA from over 30 species, including yours." Jason froze. His heart skipped a beat. "You mean human DNA?" She nodded. "Yes, and now I think Your presence is triggering something old inside me, something they never finished, something growing, he didn't know what to say. The idea that someone built her just to be a living womb made his stomach twist in anger and pain. She deserved more than that. She deserved to be free to choose her own path, her own body, her own future. Suddenly she looked up, eyes alert. Someone is coming. Jason grabbed his blaster and moved to the side of the door. The girl stood beside him, not afraid, her hand glowing again like before, but calmer, more focused. The doctor hissed open and an old man stepped in carrying a small lantern, his eyes wide when he saw them. But he didn't scream, didn't run. He just said, "Are you two the ones who broke a Dominion hunter?" Jason lowered his weapon. "Who's asking?" The man smiled slightly. "Name's Hal. I fix dead ships and listen to station gossip, and lately all the gossip is about a human and a glowing girl hiding from death." The girl stepped forward. "Do you plan to turn us in?" Hal shook his head slowly. "Not a chance. Dominion tried to erase my family long ago. I owe them nothing. You two need a place to rest, and I've got one. Follow me." He led them through a small hatch into a hidden space filled with old tools, parts, and soft lights. It smelled like oil and spices and safety. Jason dropped onto a crate, breathing deep. The girl sat beside him, her eyes never leaving the shadows. Hal brought them food and blankets and then asked the girl something strange. "Do you feel anything when he touches you?" Jason almost choked, but the girl nodded calmly. "Yes, his touch makes my body respond. It's not pain or fear, it's something else, something new." Howell grinned and said, "Then you two might be forming a bond. It's rare, but it happens, especially when one side is learning what it means to be alive." Jason looked at her. She looked back. Her hand slowly reached for his again. And this time he didn't pull away, but far away on a silent ship floating outside the station, a cold voice whispered, "Activate the override. Her tracker is alive." A second voice replied, "The bond is forming too quickly. If we wait longer, we lose her forever. Then we send the second hunter, one who knows pain and how to use it." Back in the hidden room, the girl suddenly gasped, her hand tightening around Jason's, her eyes wide. "Something just touched my mind. They know where we are." Jason stood up, grabbed his gear, and helped her rise. "We run again, but this time," the girl said, "no, this time I fight not just for me, but for you. Because now I know why you're breeding. Tool grows when I touch you." Jason stared at her, his face red, but she only smiled. "It grows because I make you feel alive, and I want to stay beside you as long as I can." The second hunter arrives. The second hunter did not knock. He didn't need to. His ship cut through the outer ring of the station like a knife. Silent, fast, deadly, the black metal slid between layers of steel and docked without a single alarm. His armor was red, not for show, but to remind others of the blood he had spilled. He moved like a shadow, with purpose, with orders. Find the girl, break the bond, and erase the human. Back in the hidden room, Jason packed quickly, his hands moving fast, but his mind was racing faster. Every second felt slower than the last. The girl stood near the wall, her glowing marks brighter than before, her fingers trembling like she was sensing the storm before it landed. "There. Here," she whispered, cold, sharp. "Here. For us." Jason looked at Hal. The old mechanic nodded and opened a hidden Panel behind a wall crawl space. Leads to a vent system goes deep into storage. Tunnels, they won't find you if you move. Now, thank you, Jason said as he lifted his bag. The girl followed him into the tunnel, her tail curled tightly, her body low, her breath shallow. She moved faster than him, guiding him through the dark, narrow passage, her glowing lines lighting the path like stars in a cave. But the hunter was already moving through the main hall, footsteps silent, scanning each door, his mask read heat prints, his eyes locked on every trace. And then he found it, the soft heat of a wall that had been opened recently. The dust was disturbed, the air smelled different, touched the panel and smiled. Meanwhile, Jason and the girl reached a maintenance shaft. It was quiet, too quiet. She stopped suddenly and whispered, "Too late, he's following. Faster than before, smarter, stronger, different." Jason pulled out his blaster and turned around, his heart pounding but his hand steady. If he had to fight, he would fight to the end. The girl touched his hand gently, her voice soft, "Let me face him. You are brave, but I was made for this." Jason shook his head. "We do it together. We run or we fight, but we don't leave each other." She smiled slowly. Like that simple sentence was more powerful than all her strange abilities, like no one had ever said that to her before, not even during creation. They climbed into the shaft and reached a power core chamber filled with old engines and cooling vents. The lights were dim, the noise low, perfect for hiding, but the hunter was already there, waiting in the shadows. His voice was deep, cold, and sharp. "You should not exist. You were never meant to escape the lab." The girl stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. "I was not made to obey." The hunter pulled a long, dark weapon from his back. Something like a whip made of energy. It crackled with light and heat. He snapped it once and metal melted from the wall. Beside them, Jason aimed his blaster and fired, but the bolt bounced off the hunter's armor. He rushed forward faster than Jason expected, knocking him across the room. The girl screamed and her hands lit up with golden energy. She jumped between them, blocking the next hit. The whip struck her arm and left a deep burn, but she didn't fall. She shouted, "Stop, I'm not yours, I choose my path now." The hunter laughed. "No. You are a project, a vessel, a carrier. Nothing more." She raised her hands and sent a pulse of energy that knocked the hunter back. He stumbled but stayed standing. Blood ran from under his helmet, but he grinned like he wanted the pain. Jason stood slowly and aimed again, this time at a pipe above the hunter's head, fired and hot steam burst down, blinding the hunter. For a moment, the girl used the chance to strike hard. A kick to the chest, a blast to the mask, a punch that cracked the wall. The hunter fell back, his weapon sparking, his helmet half broken. "You fight like them," he growled, "but you are not one of them. You don't belong with the human." The girl walked slowly toward him, her voice firm but shaking. "Maybe I don't, but he made me feel real, and that's more than your creators ever did." She raised her hand and placed it on his chest. Her glowing energy spread through his armor into his body. He screamed as the lights in his suit blinked and died. And then he collapsed. Jason rushed to her and caught her as she stumbled, her energy fading, her knees giving out. "Are you hurt?" he asked, holding her tightly. "Only tired," she whispered. "But I'm okay." Hal's voice came through the comm in Jason's pocket. "I saw the heat drop. He's down, isn't he?" He Jason answered barely, "Yeah, but more will come," Hal replied. "Then you better get moving. I've got a friend with a cargo ship. We'll sneak you out off station before the Dominion can trace the body." Jason looked at the girl. She was resting her head against his chest, breathing slow, her hand still holding his tightly. "We're not done running yet," he whispered. "But we're not done living either, and this time they would face whatever came together." She called it love, but didn't know what it meant. The cargo ship was old, rusted, and smelled like burnt wires, but it moved silently through the edge of the system, away from scanners, away from the station, away from the Dominion. Jason sat near a broken window, staring at the stars, while the alien girl lay curled up beside him, her head on his leg, her tail wrapped around his arm like it didn't want to let go. She hadn't spoken in hours, but he knew she was awake. Her breathing was soft and slow, and her fingers kept tracing circles on his leg, like it calmed her, or maybe it calmed him too. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just watched the stars and wondered what came next. After a while she whispered something, her voice so quiet it was almost lost in the hum of the engine. Jason, he looked down. "Yeah." She sat up, her eyes glowing softly, her hands in her lap. "I feel something inside me. I don't understand. It's not pain, not fear, but it's strong." Jason nodded. "What does it feel like?" "Like I want to stay near you, always. Like I want to protect you. Like I want to share everything with you, even things I don't understand." She paused, then looked at him. "I touched your face while you were sleeping last night. You smiled." He smiled again. "Now I probably dreamed something nice." She nodded. "I think I made the dream happen." Jason reached out and touched her hair. It was soft like silk and warm under his fingers. He looked at her carefully, her skin, her eyes, her gentle confusion, and said, "Do you think you're feeling love?" She blinked once, then again slowly. "I don't know what that word means, but if it means this, then yes." Jason laughed softly. "It means a lot of things, and it's hard to explain, but yeah, that sounds like it." She looked serious. "Then does it scare you a little?" He admitted. "Not because it's bad, but because it's real. And we're not safe yet." She nodded again quietly. "I want to learn more about this feeling. I want to learn it with you." Jason leaned closer, then stopped, their faces just inches apart, his heart beating faster, but he didn't move further. He let her choose. She leaned in and kissed his cheeks, soft and slow, and pulled back, smiling with her eyes glowing brighter than before. "Like how you taste," she said honestly. Jason's face turned red, but he laughed. "Anyway, you're not supposed to say that." "Why?" she asked, still smiling. "Just because humans don't usually describe kisses like that." "Then humans are silly," she replied. Before he could answer, the ship jolted. Lights flickered. The pilot's voice came over the comm, warning fast and sharp. "We've got an incoming scan. Dominion tech had found us." Jason jumped up, the girl already on her feet, scanning the control panel. Her glow faded into a soft red, danger mode alert in her body. "They locked onto us," she said. "We can't fight in this ship. It's too weak." Pilot called back. "We'll have to drop you near a mining moon. There's no population, no cities, but they won't expect you there. You'll have maybe one day before they come." Jason nodded and grabbed the emergency pack again. He looked at the girl. "Ready?" She touched his face again. "Always." They jumped from The ship just above the surface, wind and dust hit their suits hard, but they landed safe. The moon was empty. Rocks, sharp cliffs, old machines from forgotten mines. They ran for cover, found a half-buried shelter, and hid. Inside, it was cold, dark, but safe for now. She curled beside him again, her hand on his chest, her eyes not glowing, just soft and calmed. Humans get tired of love, she asked suddenly. Jason looked at her. No, not when it's real. We protect it. We hold on tight even when everything tries to break it. Then I will hold tighter, she said. Outside, in the sky, far above, a black Dominion ship broke through orbit, scanning, searching, waiting. They were not done hunting, but she was not done loving. And for the first time, Jason didn't feel alone anymore. She chose to be his, not theirs. The mining moon was silent except for the soft wind moving across the cracked stone and metal bones of a world long forgotten. Jason sat near the shelter entrance, watching the sky, his blaster in his lap, and his heart beating slow and heavy. He knew they were close. The Dominion never gave up, not on something they made, and especially not when it escaped and started feeling. The alien girl sat behind him, her back to the wall, her knees pulled up and her arms around them. Her eyes glowed dim and golden. Watching him closely, she didn't speak much since they landed. Only short words, only soft touches, like she was saving her strength for something that hadn't happened yet. Jason looked at her. She looked tired, not her body but her soul, like she had run too far from what she was built for, and now she was trying to be something new, something free, something real. You okay? He asked gently. She nodded slowly but said nothing. Jason reached for her hand. She gave it without hesitation, her fingers still warm even in the cold moonlight. I don't want to lose you, he whispered. She leaned closer, her voice steady. Then don't. A sharp beep came from Jason's scanner, a pulse bright and sudden. A ship entering the atmosphere. Fast, no time left. They're here, he said, standing up and checking his blaster again. The girl rose with him, her glow growing stronger with every heartbeat, her marks lighting up the small shelter like starlight. They stepped outside together into the cold wind and dust and waited. The Dominion ship landed without sound, just weight pressing against the ground. Its door opened and 10 armored soldiers stepped out, all weapons ready, all helmets shining black behind them. Walked tall woman in silver robes, her skin white as bone and eyes like mirrors, empty and cold. She pointed at the alien girl and spoke without emotion. Subject 0 returned to custody. You were not authorized to form emotional bonds. The girl stood tall, her voice louder than ever. I was not made to ask permission. You were made to breed and obey. Woman said sharply, you are valuable because of your womb, not your will. Jason stepped forward, angry, ready to fight, but the girl held out her arm, stopping him. Not yet, her voice whispered. The robed woman raised her hand, prepared to reset her memories and extract the human's DNA. One soldier moved forward, raising a small device, glowing blue and pulsing with strange energy. The girl stepped in front of Jason, her arms spread wide. No, you will not take him. The soldier fired the device, but the pulse hit her skin and vanished. Her marks glowed brighter than ever, red, then gold, then pure white. The light spread across the field, blinding the soldiers for a second, and then she moved faster than Their tech could track stronger than their weapons could handle. She hit the first soldier with a wave of energy. The second flew backward into the ship. The third screamed as his armor melted from her touch. Jason fired too, keeping them back, guarding her side, even as heat and light swirled around them like a storm made from her soul. The robed woman tried to retreat, but the girl flew across the air and landed before her hand glowing bright with energy. I am not your tool. I am not your creature. I am his and mine and free. The woman screamed and pulled out a hidden weapon, a sharp needle meant to paralyze her forever. But the girl caught her wrist, crushed it with one twist, and whispered softly, "This is for every day you made me afraid." Then she dropped her. The battle was over, the field silent, except for the wind, the ship broken. The soldiers scattered, some ran, others cried, but none dared come near again. Jason stood slowly watching her, her glow fading, her body shaking from what she had done. She turned to him, weak but smiling. "I'm still learning what love means, but I know it means I would fight every world to keep you safe." Jason walked to her and pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as she breathed against his chest. "We are free now," he whispered. She nodded, barely awake but full of peace, then said one last thing. "Then let me belong to you. Not because they made me to, but because I want to." Jason smiled and kissed her forehead. Then her lips then held her tighter as the stars above them began to rise. Together they walked away from the wreckage, not as prisoner and protector, not as science and soldier, but as two souls choosing each other. And for the first time in her strange, glowing life, she felt like a real person, because the human didn't want to use her.